Welcome everyone to silencing my phone. Welcome to our March 18th coordination circle. It's great to see everybody. I'm going to go through our handy agenda, which I feel really grateful to have today because I'm a little bit frazzled. So um, we're going to start with grounding and land acknowledgement, which I've been playing with sort of combining these lately. So this is going to be a continuation of that experiment. So as we settle in here, I invite you to close your eyes or find a soft gaze, whatever is comfortable for you. And first, I invite you to notice your breath as it moves in and out of your body, not trying to change or control the breath, just noticing. And as you breathe, notice what it feels like to be in your body as you're breathing. And on your next exhale, I invite you to allow your brain to drain down into your body and allow that drain to continue out onto the land. And allow that draining to connect you to the land. And I invite you to start to feel into your relationship with the land where you are right now. Could be your physical relationship, your spiritual relationship, emotional relationship. Just notice what it feels like to be in your body on this land where you are right now. And whatever is coming up, whatever's alive in your body in this relationship is welcome and valid. And as you breathe and notice this connection to the land, I invite you to bring into your awareness whatever you know about the history of the land where you are, however little or much that might be. And I invite you to place yourself and your body in the context of that history. Notice where you are in time and space in relationship to the ancient time and space of the land where you are and all of the indigenous stewards of the land, all of the animals of the land, all of the spirits of the land, and all of the settlers of the land. And just notice how all of this exists in the land and around the land right now. And before we come back, I invite you to hold some gratitude in your hands or your heart to offer to the land and all of the relations of the land. And you might start to wiggle your toes or your fingers, coming back into our bodies in our seats. And on the count of, you're counting backwards from 3, we can come back to the circle. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. So I have come up with a check-in question to start our circle off today. And the circle, as I see it, is Roland, Ben, April, and me. And our check-in question is, what is lighting up for you lately? What is lighting up for you? Starting with Roland.
We have been having some really lovely sunny days, so that my sky is lighting up. Over to Ben.
Ditto the actual light in the sky. And I think what else is lighting up for me? I'm still hospicing modernity has landed really well with me. And that's also lighting up that kind of what it means to decolonize and um, how to I think that's always been really central to my idea of what we're doing together, and figuring out how to make that more front and center is has been lighting up for me. Over to April.
Um, what's lighting up for me is two things. One is the quality of the light in the evenings. And the other thing is specific supports that some friends have given me lately that make me feel lighter and brighter, I guess. And on to Ronnie.
I think what's lighting up for me is something around what you seek is seeking you. I've been having some really deep, meaningful connections with some new people lately who are totally picking up what I'm putting down, if you get what I mean. And it's some really beautiful stuff is already starting to happen for the community. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. All right, so oops, trying not to get lost here. I'm still, uh-oh, sorry, that froze. Still orienting myself. All right, so next we will revisit our North Star, which is why are we here? Why bother? What is this all about? So starting from the high level to come together as a group all over again to explore what's really going on here that can be guiding us through our time together. So starting with Roland, we have three questions. You can answer all or one or two of them or none of them. And first question is, what are we trying to accomplish? Over to you, Roland.
In the immediate and more micro, it's interesting that it's the four of us here today. I think that for this meeting and for these meetings coming, we're learning to redirect our neural pathways from being the ones who are making all of the decisions because we're the only four to and I'm exaggerating because I'm thinking there are some other people who had been working on stuff, but really relearning how to do things because of the guild system taking off, with guild members joining and participating, and that is going to be it is proving to be some unlearning and relearning for me. And from what I can see around, I'm not the only one. And it's a great, 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 great thing. And it matters because this is what it's all about. It's actually being able to engage in however you want to call it, mutual aid system, that because the Lifeboat Academy is fractal in that sense, where we help each other on the property, we help each other in the Lifeboat Academy. The Lifeboat Academy has links with other groups, individuals, and organizations that are now starting to link with each other. Yeah, where we are now, I think, is that we are learning to do it, and because we are doing it. So over to Ben.
Well, what he said, um, yeah, and I feel like all I can do is paraphrase or restate, but I feel like we're trying to unlearn bad conditioning that has kept us from being able to use our natural human superpower, which is collaboration and connection. And the unlearning is harder than the learning. And even that concept is hard for colonized bodies, I think. And it is for this one, um, and why does it matter? Um, in part, it matters because I do think it is how we can most effectively address the multi-crisis, poly-crisis, whatever you want to call it, the long crisis that we face. But even if what we are doing isn't enough, isn't successful, it's still important because it seems like we're reclaiming a birthright. Um, and where are we now? Boy. I don't know. I'm feeling too metaphysical. I kind of feel like we're, at least that's where I feel like I'm at, is learning to be in the process and not actually thinking in terms of a linear progression. And over to April.
Well, we are establishing a Lifeboat Academy. We're sort of in another phase of that right now, moving into the guild system, which is quite an ancient way of working, actually. I've always thought I might want to be part of a guild. Oddly enough, here I am. Why does this matter? Well, it's part of our seasonal plan to kind of move on. And again, what Ben said about it is a response to polycrisis, which may well be an effective response. And where are we now? I think where I'm feeling I am now is in checking the processes that I've, intuitively taken on from past work, but now I'm trying to bring them into my consciousness, I guess, and take responsibility to check. Am I in the ballpark I think I'm in? And over to Ronnie.
This is good stuff. I'm glad that we do this. I'm feeling really practical. We are leaning into the process and using the tools, walking the talk, farmer and the horsing it, which, yes, that is now a verb. it matters because we've identified ways of working that seem to work based on experience. So using those tools is probably our best bet for um, moving towards our goals. And also being humane, honoring life and all our relations. Where are we now? Oh, I kind of already answered that, I feel like, in the first one. Um, I think I want to add to it and say we're leaning into the process and seeing what happens. There's the part that we do and the rest of life, doing life things and seeing what happens. All right, just once around again, is there anything else anyone would like to add? Over to Roland.
I'm good. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I do. I like taking the time to do it, and it feels like it's a um, an effective use of time. Over to April.
I'm good. Also, over to Ronnie.
Yep, I'm good. Awesome. So next we will review our annual and seasonal plan, and now that is in the form of um, which guild is focusing on what for the season, and then looking at the annual plan after that. So, Heart Work and Philosophy is exploring deep engagement possibilities. Principles and Governance has a current focus on onboarding and getting people up to speed. Finance and Legal is focused on the legal structure and the social mortgage, and specifically securing funding for the 47-acre property that will become hopefully permanently the Lifeboat Academy campus. Farm Food and Housing is focusing on the plan for the garden and the farm for the season and for the year. And then Outreach and Network is refining our different offerings. So the lifeboat circles, navigation sessions, and the other tools and materials that we have available, as well as the way that we communicate about all of that. And our annual plan looks like establishing the legal entity for the Lifeboat Academy and completing the purchase, as I mentioned, as soon as possible. We are onboarding people who've been getting more involved and seeing how we can, like I mentioned, use our different offerings for outreach and getting people more engaged. We are looking at our priorities for the season and for the year and seeing how we need to prioritize, how we can allocate the resources and assets that we currently have, and establishing baselines to measure progress. Specifically, I think around the farm and so it's physical side of things, but I suppose baselines for generally everything and how we want to be able to report on that because it's written into our bylaws that we will be providing reports and numbers about how things are going year after year. And do we want to go into the roadmap? Okay, cool. Is there anything anyone feels is missing or that they want to add to the annual plan? Awesome. Next is reviewing the lifeboat calendar. And I think I will need to resume share. So let me get over to the calendar. Do, do, do. Imagine intermission music in your head. Okay, new share. I think that will work. Is it this? Google Calendar. Can everyone see the calendar?
Yep.
Awesome. So tomorrow we have our outreach and I was like, what is the other word? Network guild meeting in the afternoon. Have office hours been happening, or it's just like,
That's a ghost. I'll delete that.
okay, we have a navigation session on Wednesday, and so far one person has signed up. I can send out a reminder email about that. There's a CJ meeting with Janie on Wednesday. Got principles and governance on Thursday. And I guess we have other guild meetings next week. We have our next coordination circle on Monday. Andy podcast next Wednesday, Heart Work and Philosophy next Thursday. And that's it for the calendar. There's not a whole lot going on as of this moment. Is there anything anyone needs to add to the calendar?
One of the things I put on or what we had on the agenda, and I just wanted to bring our attention to it, is actually scheduling when we want to do hive minds. So that's just something to add into the calendar. And I don't know if we want to talk about it or if that's going to be part of outreach looking at schedules. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think we could do that when we look at the schedules. And I'm gonna shut my window because somebody is weed whacking. I'll be right back. Awesome. So now we will go back to our agenda, which is here. Next on the list, we have reports from each of the guilds. So if each representative, each caretaker from each guild could cover recent accomplishments and or actions, any plans or next steps, and any issues for coordination that we need to talk about today, or that we could talk about today. So first is Heart Work and Philosophy, which I believe is Roland.
And me.
And April, I'm sorry.
Could you click on the artwork and philosophy, please?
Ah, there we go.
Right. There
Great.
you
Thank you for adding that co-caretaker.
Yeah. Would you like to since it would be interesting, I think, since I wrote it, if you would interpret it, would that be okay?
Sure.
Preferably in the form of interpretive dance.
Sorry? I didn't hear that last bit.
In the form of interpretive dance.
Oh, all right. Well, then I need to get up. Everybody move back. We did have our first meeting. It was fun. It felt a bit tentative because we were learning and doing at the same time, but it was fun. We went over roles because something that Roland and I had talked about before was that we weren't quite sure of what a caretaker was and wanted to do a good job of it and to distinguish it from the other roles. So we talked about that. We talked overall about the structure and how this guild fitted into it and the sort of organicness of it as well, in trying to think of it as an organism. We had questions and talked about some sociocratic processes and the flavor that Lifeboat Academy gives to those processes and what that means for us. And then we reviewed the sort of fundamental and foundational document, the driver statement and the seasonal plan. Out of that, and I felt it was an interesting conversation. Out of that, we realized that we needed to do coordination with the Outreach Guild around the Lifeboat conversations and how that could intersect with our activities. We talked about creating a book club, so to speak. That's what we called it. It could have a different name. And talked a little bit about books that had impressed us and that we might want to include in terms of what to read. Books that resonated with our purpose and the sort of things, well, that we talked about earlier in this meeting. And in particular, I was very hot to investigate the 6 Conversations framework as something for us to consider using and to facilitate. And I have to admit that due to time pressures, I have not yet looked at the PowerPoint on 6 Conversations and haven't come to any opinions about anything because I haven't looked at it. So that's on my list to do quite soon. I really enjoyed the experience of being a co-caretaker with Roland. And I don't think I have anything more to say. Roland, would you like to pick up the narrative there?
That was great. Thanks, April.
Awesome. Thank you, April. And can I mark it complete or do you want me to leave it as is, Ben?
No, I think you can mark it complete.
Okay. All right. So up next, I believe, is principles and governance. And I think that's Ben and
Yeah.
April. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm fuzzy today.
I think I'm still looking for, oh no, it is April. Is it? Yeah,
Yes,
I think
I think it is.
we haven't met this week. The meeting was last week. We'll have another meeting this week. Wait, no, next week.
Next week.
And but one of the things that we talked about in the meeting was kind of reviewing the materials that were already there, and we are moving forward on the onboarding sessions. So one of the things that I've done is a slight reorganizing of the onboarding Asana project. In particular, I pulled out and separated anything that had to do with on-site onboarding as unique from more general to understand what we're doing as a Lifeboat Academy. And we had talked about the 3 sessions being how to use Slack, how to use Asana, and sociocracy. And in reviewing things, I put a whole bunch of things in the Slack channel around some of the things that are coming up. Mostly it's minor. It's all minor stuff. But the big thing I'm proposing is that actually the Slack session really turns into level 1 onboarding, because the level 1 onboarding is primarily going over our driver statement and the sociocracy 7 principles and Slack and social media. And I think we can do all of that in, a half an hour. So that's what I'm proposing, is that the Slack session turns into level 1 onboarding, and the sociocracy onboarding could probably also cover, we called it our Coles Notes version of how we work. So it's sociocracy and then how that translates into what we do here. And then a separate one on Asana for the more technical part of using Asana. So That's all open for review. If people want to take a look at it. I don't know that there's anything we really need to talk about today. I think it's progressing well. So, the next. And that's me again. So we had our finance and legal meeting on Friday. It was, I think, a really productive conversation. I drafted it's intended to be an internal document, not a legal document, but just to have down in writing what we are hoping to accomplish in the legal structure, and invited comments and feedback. Got a lot of activity. There were a lot of questions, comments, and additions that were marked up the document. In the meeting, we just went through comment by comment and resolved them. And I think and I just sent out the meeting notes today because the weather was really nice over the weekend. So I didn't work on it, and I have no guilt or shame about it. So there, yeah. And but anyhow, I think we have a good agreement, a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. The questions that are still remaining are things that we really need to talk through with the lawyers, because it's a question as much about how we might accomplish it as, we know what we want. And then there's just some questions about, how do you do that legally? And then likewise, we talked about, but really didn't work through getting feedback from Joey as a representative of potential social mortgage holders, having Joey's lens, the perspective he can see it from, and then also engaging others that have already expressed some interest in investing, just to make sure that, using it as an opportunity to make sure that we're all seeing things from the same alignment. And yeah, so, and I know Becca is already in the process of thinking through when the meeting with the lawyers will happen. There's an email out about who wants to be involved in that. So that's finance and legal.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And next we have farm, food, and housing, which I believe is over to Roland.
I don't think I sent anything about that, so I'll just talk off the top of my head. I'll be shortly sending out a message to set up the first meeting. Conditions have slightly changed around the makeup of the guild. So that's in response to that. And yeah, and we already have stuff to talk through. There's a neighbor request for use of farm property. So this is an opportunity for us to work through what does that look like, and moving forward. And how can we be good neighbors and at the same time respect the project and the data that we're gathering. And I think this is one of the places where we have an opportunity to, one of the many places that we have an opportunity to gather data to be able to have report to social mortgage investors as well as for our own information. So how to keep that in mind and how to respect it. And yeah, more on what comes out of the next meeting. I think I'd like to send, and this is open to discussion. I was thinking of sending the notice for the meeting to all of the guild, the members of all the guilds, to see who might be interested in joining. And no pressure. Just another offer to beef up the beef up the guild. So that's it for farm, food, and housing. Over to Ronnie.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And last, we have Outreach and Network, which is me, and I did not send an update last night or today. We also haven't had a meeting since our last coordination circle. Some things that have been going on are we've been sending out interest forms for folks around the onboarding sessions, sort of in cahoots with the governance guild. And we've had a few responses to those interest forms, but not a ton. So at our last coordination circle, we talked about going ahead and scheduling those sessions. And then the Outreach Guild will be responsible for sending out to everybody notice about when those will be happening. And I think that will probably just be part of the weekly email. Oh, and that's another thing. We decided that the weekly email will go to every other week. So more like a bi-weekly newsletter, which is how it used to be back in the day. Speaking of what is the history of the Outreach Guild? So I think that feels a little bit more spacious, and since the guilds only meet every other week, it just makes sense to do it that way. Ben, is there anything else outreach related that's new that I'm forgetting?
Not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So we've done our guild reports. And I guess I'll go back to our agenda. So one of the things is setting up the hive mind time, which we talked about being part of the more broad scheduling conversation. Thinking about scheduling lifeboat circles and navigation sessions and what's the right pulse, the right rhythm or appropriate rhythm for those, as well as scheduling the 3 different onboarding sessions that we talked about. I think there's a few other things, but I think those seem like priorities.
Oh, actually, I just thought of something if I can jump in.
Yeah.
Um, I also sent an invitation to Community Justice about the sociocracy uh, uh, webinar, and they are now sponsoring one of those to be done as part of Community Justice for Southern Gulf Islands. And there's going to be at least one on line one April 10th, I want to say. And but we're also looking to do a couple live ones, one on Pender and one maybe on Maine or Galliano. So anyhow, in terms of uptake, there is a lot of interest in the sociocracy side of things. Yeah, just so as we're talking about scheduling the onboarding sessions, there's an audience beyond just the Lifeboat Academy who are interested in some of these. Back to you.
Great. So we could just go in order of what's on our action items here, if that seems good to other people. The first question is, what is the right pulse for lifeboat circles and navigation sessions? Yes, Ben.
That's actually action item 4 outreach.
Oh, you're right.
It's just it's the action items that we discussed, but that's actually going to be something should be on the agenda for outreach tomorrow.
So is outreach also scheduling times for the onboarding sessions, and we're not doing that tonight?
That's what I was assuming.
Okay. Okay,
That
great. I
yeah,
just got
that's actually
confused.
it's it's just leaning into the guild part of like
Got
we
it.
don't have to get into the micromanaging.
Great.
That can be a guild thing. But we do have the one thing that has come up from the Heartwork and Philosophy Guild is thinking about what is the relationship between the book club, the 6 conversations, the lifeboat circle. So
Mm,
that actually feels like a coordination question. And then there's
okay.
also one thing I added in terms of potential issues is the learning journey in bioregional learning centers webinar that Joe
Mm,
Brewer is doing starts tomorrow, and Pamela has suggested that we attend. And so that's a question for me in terms of coordination. Is that something that we're interested in? How does that affect what we're doing, etc.?
okay. So I will move the stuff about CJ and the sociocracy webinar up to that section. All right, so first, I guess we can circle around the Bioregional Learning Center involvement. So considerations for that. Over to Roland.
So this is about the webinar, right?
Mhm.
Um, well, in talking about it with Ben earlier, if it's okay if I paraphrase my understanding of our conversation, one of the things was that it was questions about is attending the webinar a an efficient use of time. Yeah, in part because I yeah yeah, how much of what is being suggested that people do to set up a bioregional learning center are we already doing? And how much further along are we than what is what is in these webinars? And I don't know the answer to that.
Mhm.
And that in itself might make it worthwhile to attend. Uh, so yeah, because there's a lot of information out in the world and a lot of webinars and courses that could be attended. And how do you balance attending webinars and doing the work? Because you know the laws of thermodynamics or something like that, you only have so much energy. Energy is never wasted, and at the same time, you only have so much energy, and there's so many hours in the day. So what's the best use of energy? What's the best use of our time? And I think that it is and that's an honest question because we are now an expanded group. And is it a question of talking about um, a representative for the Lifeboat Academy? And who could be a representative? Like, what does it make sense? Who does? I maybe I will let somebody else finish that sentence for me. I think you know what I'm trying to say. So it's like, who would be the right person who has enough of an understand? Do we need someone who has actually that's be even a better question. Do we need someone who has a thorough understanding of the Lifeboat Academy to be able to assess whether or not this would be useful, or could it just be anyone? Or even what's the baseline information that somebody would need to be able to make that assessment? That's my perspective. And I think I may have taken some stuff out of Ben's mouth, but I will pass over to him so that he can have his own say.
Yeah, I feel like that's the big question is it a useful use of time? And I likewise, it's an honest question. Um, Pamela is the one who has recommended it. So there's also, I think, a question of respecting relationships. And You know, she's made a specific recommendation and she knows more about the design school than I think we do. And so it does feel to me like it's probably worthwhile to have a presence there, at least at the first one, to get a sense of what is the scope of what they're doing. Yeah, and I think that there may also be a question of well, and this is where it gets a little tricky. My hunch, which actually might be my ego, is that we probably have more to offer than we have to get. Because I think we've actually been walking this path for quite a while. And so we've been doing a lot of the on the ground work, trying to make this happen. So I think we have lived experience where I'm imagining a lot of people might be showing up with an academic interest, you know, a sort of abstract interest. But I'm not sure. I also am. I haven't had any direct experience with Joe, but you know, I've gotten sort of reports from multiple people who have that it doesn't sound like there's a lot of openness to other people contributing. So, and you know, and I don't want to show up thinking that, you know, we're going to come and like crash the party and set everyone straight. So there's a part of me that thinks it probably makes sense for us to go and see, but then maybe Pamela going is enough. And then we can just sort of, or we sign up and watch the video on fast forward, you know, or something like that. Anyhow, I think I'm really just duplicating what Roland said. So over to you, April.
Can I just clarify the Bioregional Learning Center? Is it already in existence? Okay.
This is, well, and I'm not 100% sure, but I know that Joe and Penny have established the Design School for Regeneration,
Right.
and they have a model of taking people on learning journeys. And generally, the model is they present information to people, and then people have an opportunity to talk about it. And I think that this is being put forward for people who are interested in it's lots of people. There's like 70 people signed up for it already around the globe. So I think it's intended to be for people who are wanting to create a bioregional learning center. But I would imagine some of them have started to establish one, but most of them haven't. But I don't know. And I don't know where the teaching is targeted. And there's a lot, I mean, the big reason why we might want to go is I don't think any of us have a clear idea of what's actually on offer.
Right. That was, yeah, what I was wondering. And is there a title to the webinar, or is there an espoused purpose to it?
Yeah, I can this is well, it's birthing bioregional learning centers, a learning journey from the Design School for Regenerating Earth. And that's pretty much, that's the gist I've gotten. And I don't know that I have any more detail.
Okay. I think before I engaged in a webinar, I'd want to know a little bit more than that in order to make a decision. And I'm also wondering, are there other ways, and you suggested a couple of getting the information without having to be there. So is watching a recording and making notes a useful way to get the information? Or I mean, as you say, if Pamela's going to be there, could she be tasked with making notes on our behalf? Or is her expectation that we be quite involved with this? I don't know. That's a question. And over to Ronnie.
I don't really have much to add. I think it's pretty much been covered. Pam has been encouraging us to be more involved with the design school since it began. So I know that I think she feels pretty invested or somewhat invested in the connection. I don't think that attending this webinar would massively change anything we're doing. I don't think it's like a make or break it kind of situation, but it might be worth checking out the first one to see. And I think if it's going to be recorded, that's perfectly fine. I personally don't have the time or the energy to attend tomorrow. Um, so I just wanted to put that out there. Um, yeah, I guess we'll keep going around over to Roland.
I don't have anything to add. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I'm just looking at I pasted a link to the Medium post that Joe Brewer put out to, kind of announce the launch of it. The three pillars are creation of a learning ecosystem organized around at least one bioregional learning center for every unique landscape on Earth. So they're going to pick one, I suppose, in each ecosystem, weave a tapestry of local projects into holistic integrated landscapes that are organized as watersheds, coastal estuaries, mountain ranges, or other geophysical features of the natural world, and establish a collaborative funding and governance ecosystem in the form of territorial foundation or bioregional regeneration fund that mobilizes resources in service to the local landscape. And so, yeah, I guess I feel like I'll just make a proposal that I will sign up. There's a participant form. I'll sign up to that, and that'll let them know that I'm watching, and I'll try to. It's tomorrow morning at a time I don't have a meeting, so I can either monitor or or follow up, and then I can report back on it. So, all right. What I'm hearing, at least, I think, is it's worth being on the radar. It's worth, kind of doing a little reconnoiter just to see. I There's a part of me that thinks, well, we could be the site that they select as a bioregional learning center to focus on, but I don't actually know if that would be helpful at this point, especially because I do know that a lot of people are coming in with some strongly preconceived ideas of what it has to be, and I don't think that's in our line of what we think we're doing. So anyhow, so I will attend. I will, and hopefully I can also get some work done at the same time. Over to you, April, to continue around the circle.
I don't think I have anything more to say about that particular issue. Over to Ronnie.
Yep, that sounds good. Thanks for taking one for the team, Ben. Um, so I had actually planned to log off at 1:30 because I have another event that I'm going to. I do care about when the hive mind time happens. So if you think it could be quick, I could stay and we could talk about when that will. I think we already kind of did talk about when that will happen. I'm not sure. Otherwise, I'm happy to receive a report via Slack after and check in about timing. Does anyone feel strongly about?
Oh, let's see if we can come up with something quick.
Okay.
And I think you needing to go is good motivation for us to wrap it up. Be
Okay.
concise.
Great.
Do we want to
So
just go?
I'm
Sorry,
trying
go
to
ahead.
first I just wanted to remember what we had talked about a few weeks ago. I think we had said it could potentially happen on Fridays. Um, because we don't have guild meetings on Fridays as of yet.
Yes, we do.
Um, oh,
Yes, we do. Finance,
which
legal and
one?
finances on Friday.
Oh, it's every other Friday.
Yeah,
Okay, I thought that was on Thursdays. And we have a meeting every Thursday.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess we could do considerations for what day. So one consideration is every other Friday there's no guild meeting. Over to you, Roland.
I second that. Over to Ben.
What are you seconding?
Every other Friday, the Fridays opposite the finance meeting,
Okay.
so that it's I like the idea of having time slots every week, but for different things, so that a little bit like the office hours, so that it makes it easier to remember and to plan around. Because it's when things are a little bit everywhere, it's difficult to remember. So it's easier to double book or to say, oh, I don't really know when that is. This thing is coming up, so I'll do that instead. But if it's regular, then really you are making a decision of your if you're going to show up or not, because you know that there is going to be a meeting. So back to you, Ben.
Cool. I like that. My only concern is one slot every 2 weeks seems maybe a bit thin.
Mm.
And so as a potential outreach and network is every other Tuesday. So in the same way, legal and finance and legal is every other Friday, outreach and network is every other Tuesday. So we could, and they're alternating. So we could have, a Tuesday hive mind 1 week and a Friday hive mind the other week. Um, and it's also, my understanding is it's a sort of standing time, but only triggered when we need it, if that makes sense. That it doesn't mean we have to meet every Tuesday and every other Tuesday and Friday, but it sort of just books the time aside. So anyhow, those are just some thoughts. Over to you, April.
Um, I have never been part of a hive mind session, I believe. I've managed to avoid them over the last however many years we've been talking. So what is the best thing that happens from having these kind of sessions?
Anyone want to do that, or shall I? I think you have been part of Hive Mind.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I
we
just
don't,
didn't know it.
yeah, but you didn't know it, and it is basically applying. It's either gathering considerations or doing a navigating via tensions process over a specific topic.
Ah, okay.
So it's and the intention, my understanding would be that the intention would be to go to the first thing we would do is go to the tension hopper, and we would prioritize whatever tensions are already identified in the tension hopper and then work through as many of them as we could.
Okay, thank you. I think probably particularly if there's a backlog in the hopper that you want to be having weekly meetings. And I don't have any other opinion beyond that. So over to Ronnie.
This schedule sounds great to me. Over to Roland.
So just to clarify, the hive mind is general farm topics, or are they topics that that the guilds are sending up to the whole farm, or is it is it a guild that I think that there's maybe some this is might be one of these places where we're used to working in a certain way when there's only a few of us, and that now that there's a larger group, it might require thinking through how, like, yeah, are there hive minds that are guild specific? And do we sort of advertise beforehand, let people know beforehand what is going to be hive-minded about? Or is it at the meeting itself that there's a decision about what's on the hive mind, or how would that work? Yeah, over to Ben.
I have a proposal for that. I think that if we think about it, it's almost like um, we have a set aside time that people know is generally good on our calendars. And generally speaking, hive mind should be what can't ordinarily get done in the guilds. So anything that's guild specific, hopefully the guild would use the guild meeting time to work through that. It could be, I'm almost thinking about it like having a boardroom in the building. And it could be that the guild sort of schedules that time because we need extra time to work through this. And that's just a time that we know what people are available. But generally speaking, I think it should be for issues that can't be dealt with at the guild level. So if it involves two or more guilds, or if it's a general tension, that applies across the board, that would be what the hive mind would be for. Because generally speaking, the tensions in the tension hopper, if it's a tension that only lives in one guild, it should go on the guild's project, not in the tension hopper. And the only things that should go in the tension hopper are things that involve more than one guild. And ideally. And I think then I would do a both and. I think we could say this is what we think we're going to use the time. Well, in the coordination meetings, we could easily identify that's attention. We don't have time to talk about it today. Let's schedule that for Tuesday or Friday or whatever. So then ahead of time, we could actually just say, this is what we're going to use that time for, and people would know. Or otherwise, it's kind of show up and let's work through the tensions in the hopper if we can. That's what I'm thinking. Over to April.
That's fine with me. Nothing to add. Over to Ronnie.
That works for me, and I would like to head out. So if there's nothing else, I'll have to stop my share. So Ben, you'll need to start your share if there's more to discuss.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you later. Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Yep.
I guess my last question around that is, I like what your proposal, Ben, and how do we coordinate use of the time?
Hang on, let me get into the.
Okay.
Where are we? Oh, I don't know where Ronnie was doing the notes. Oh, and set up pipeline.
Yeah.
There we go. So how is the time scheduled, or the topic?
How is it coordinated? If there's a specific guild request for multi-guild hive minding, and there are two guilds that are vying for time, or how does a guild know that there isn't already something? Yeah, go for it, Ben.
That sounds like a coordination circle topic.
Whoa. Shall we put it on the coordination circle agenda?
I think, yeah, I think that's yep. I think that's and it can be that we
Oh,
say
this is so much
at the
fun.
coordination circle, we say this week's going to be an open one if anyone needs it, if something comes up. But yeah, if there is that's one of the things that we can talk about at the coordination circle, and I will actually just add it to as a standing item.
Great.
I don't want, what do I want to say? Set hive mind focus. All right. Oh, sorry, I'm cutting things off. So over to you, April.
I don't have anything else.
Cool.
Over.
Roland, do you have anything else to add? Okay, well then I think we have set up the hive mind time, so it'll be alternating Fridays and Tuesdays. The other side to finance and legal and outreach and network. And basically it will be a standing time to work through the tension hopper, and with the coordination circle being tasked with figuring out what the topic is. And is that, I think we're good for today then. I think we're adjourned. And so we did have on our agenda, we said it would be nice to come up with a sprint mantra, that it's handy to have that. So in the spirit of kind of a way of doing a closing, I'm going to propose we do 2 rounds. The first round is, is there anything that would be a sprint mantra for you? And then the last checkout question is just, how is this working for you? And then we can go on our merry way. So, Roland, do you have anything to offer in terms of a sprint mantra? Where are we now? What are we focusing on?
I think it's just a repetition of what I was saying at the very beginning, that we're unlearning and relearning how to do things. So over to you.
I think I would be more practical, and I would say onboarding. Not that you aren't being practical. I'm just thinking tasky. Onboarding lawyers and book clubs. Something like that. April, over to you.
Something about transforming into a guild, which is probably exactly the same as what Roland just said in the top.
Mhm. Cool. All right, and then just check out any last words for the good of the cause. Over to you, Roland.
Have a good week, and see you next week. Over to you, Ben.
Have a good day and see you tomorrow. Over to you, April.
Always have a good time and keep talking.
All right.
That's my last word.
Awesome. Okay. And I like keeping the meetings tighter and shorter. This is great. So onward and upward. And as always, I'll post this, and then off we go. All right. See y'all when we see you.
Bye.
Bye.